Good morning. If you'd like to stand, we'll sing our call to worship. It's a new one for the new month. We'll do this twice and then tag the ending, and if you don't know what that means, you'll figure it out when we get there. Okay, last line. 1, 2. We came here to laugh, and we come here to sing, and we come here to remember we're in everything. Yes, we come here to love, and we come here to live, and we come here to remember that we came here to give. Here's your assignment for this week. Somebody write a second verse to this thing.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Michael Robold, and I'm the I guess I'm the assistant today. Is that the worship assistant? Yeah. So welcome to the first Sunday in March. And perhaps you've heard the term March Madness. Does anyone know where that originated from? I see that our resident basketball coach and scholar Dave Ginsburg isn't here. But I looked it up on the internet, and it started with a man by the name of Henry Porter, not to be confused with Harry Potter. I was hoping I wouldn't mix those two up. Apparently in 1939, that predates all of us, the term was coined, supposedly, regarding high school basketball tournaments in Illinois and Indiana. But it really didn't get into the mass market until or I should say an announcer by the name of Brent Musburger brought it into the NCAA college tournament. And here's where the internet can be confusing, because in one place it said it was 1974 and another place said 1982, which just means you really have to do your research because facts are not necessarily facts. So from that March Madness, let's just go within and give thought to March Gladness. So this opening prayer is about not necessarily believing everything as fact. That goes for what we've learned, whether it was in school, at home, in the neighborhood we grew up in. It's all about each of us doing our own investigation. And much of that starts with going within. Because that's where we tap into the universal intelligence. the Christ within, is where we can find the truth. And the truth is something that in unity we are always in search of. And one thing we may always find within ourselves is a place of love and acceptance, joy, compassion, forgiveness. Because we are human. Or perhaps we are spirit living in a human existence. And in that we are glad. Amen. On one of the screens, if not both, there's a little lag time between the two. We have a statement. Let's say that together. Together, in the stillness of this moment, I am peace. Well, let's go back to March Madness. A little different type. For instance, this morning, our scheduled guest speaker, Jill Donberg, contacted Libby and said, Libby, I am not feeling too well. I didn't sleep well. I'm dealing with a cold, and I'm just wondering, do you think I should come, or would it be better if I don't come and, infect some of the congregation? So Libby made a couple of quick phone calls to get some direction on this. She had an idea that perhaps one of the congregants would like to get up and give us the lesson. But then she said, maybe Joe Kelly. Joe has been such a wonderful presenter here, and a last-minute notification might be okay in his schedule. So here he is today with his wife, Linda. So thank you so much. I think the term madness doesn't refer to anger, it just refers to chaos. And from that chaos, certainly we can see some positive and negative. At first, there's, of course, the sadness for Jill's condition and that she wasn't going to be able to come, and then the gladness that Joe was willing to come. Last Thursday, we experienced a significant type of gladness as we were walking down our country road, and off the school bus came this little girl who we've gotten to know. She arrives at her grandparents' house, which is a farm, and she said, Mike, Libby, quick, come see the Poppy. And we thought it was the cow, which had been named Poppy, but she said, no, puppy. So in the barn we went, and here were 7 little puppies scrambling around, and every day since we've been going down there to get some puppy love. And if you don't have a neighbor or someone nearby with a little critter that you can go and get their energy, here's a wonderful little DVD that we have right here. You can check out. It's called Called to Rescue, and it's a wonderful story about people who around the country are taking in animals to provide them with a safe home and a home that they can live out their lives in. And so you'll see pigs and cows, horses, and chickens, and it's just a wonderful DVD. So I've carried on for a while. I guess Carol was waiting.
If you'd like to stand. When I wake and the sun lights up my face and the world holds me in its warm embrace, show me how to be all that I can be, and heal, heal, heal me back to God. Oh, heal, oh, heal, oh, heal, heal, heal me back to God. When my life doesn't go the way I planned, and my day gets completely out of hand, show me, Lord, that I am where I ought to be, and heal, heal, heal me back to God. Oh, heal, oh, heal, oh, heal, heal, heal me back to God. When I feel that my life has slipped away and my voice no longer knows what to say, let love fill and mend my broken heart, and heal, heal, heal me back to God. Oh, heal, oh, heal, oh, heal, heal, heal me back to God. Heal me back to God. Heal me back to God. Heal me back to God.
A few announcements. As far as speakers for this month, well, today, Joe Kelly is stepping in. Next Sunday, our own Blake Ringsmith. The following Sunday, return of our former Unity Minister, Judy Grimes. And rounding out the month will be, again, one of our own, Bob White. Now, April, I don't have the exact schedule, but I can let you know that Kit Holmes will be returning. Joe Kelly will be returning. Judy Grimes will be returning. And Jill Donberg will, yeah, so that will take care of April. A Course in Miracles, that study group is meeting every Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. Whether you are a longtime student or simply new to the course, you're all welcome. And when I talk about time, just remember that next Sunday we switch to daylight savings time. So we lose an hour, but we gain extra light at the end of the day or near the end of the day. We have a new study group. Our own Yvette Ringsmith, right here, Babin Ringsmith, yes. Do you want me to tell about that class? Okay, so that's going to start next Sunday. for 4 consecutive Sundays. It's going to meet in here from 12:15 to 1:30. And this is going to be based on the book I Never Thought of It That Way by Monica Guzman. And the goal of the study group is to allow the participants to be able to have a conversation, a fearlessly curious conversation with people who might be on a different plane of thinking, or just have, we all have different opinions about everything. And we're dealing with a time now when there's so much animosity for thinking differently. So the course is designed to help us be those people who can work to bring more cohesiveness in a country that seems to be a little bit torn apart. So again, that starts next Sunday. Pardon? It is available at Horizon.
It's available on Amazon, on Horizon, it's widely available. Okay. Yep. If you go to Horizon and they don't have it, they can order it for you and probably still get it in before next week. And we have lots of other associated materials that I'll be giving you, and links to videos, et cetera. And she's a really, really powerful author and speaker. So I'm excited for us to be the change.
Paul.
Has there been a Facebook post for it yet?
I have not done one.
Okay.
Meg, do you know anything?
I did a small blurb, I think that's gone out with the Welcome to March, and there will be a Facebook post early this week.
Cool, let's like it. Share.
All right. Script cards. Anyone unfamiliar with script cards? Very easy. We're switching now that instead of twice a month, they'll be ordered once a month, first Sunday of the month. So today is the ordering day. Now that means if you miss today, you can always sign up anytime during the month, but the cards will not be ordered except for the first Sunday of the month, and then they're usually here the following Sunday. What are these cards? For those of you who may never have used one, they're simple. They're just a card that you have purchased for the dollar value that you wish to purchase, and then you get to use it at the various locations throughout the area, and even online. I think Amazon is included. So you're going to make purchases that benefit the church because the church gets a percentage of the amount of money that you're signing up for. So it's a win-win situation. And if you have any questions about how to fill the card out or what to do, there are people here, that myself included, that could certainly help answer any questions you might have after the service. And I believe that is the list of announcements.
Healing life flows through my hands, healing hands, healing hands. I am an instrument, God is the part in this healing, healing. God is the life in me. Healing healing songs sing through my voice, healing voice, healing voice. I am an instrument, God is the power in these healing, God is the songs in my healing voice. Healing joy shines through my smile. Healing smile, healing smile. I am an instrument. God is the power in these healing. God is the joy in my healing smile. Healing love flows through my heart. Healing heart, healing heart. I am an instrument. God is the power in these healing. God is the love in my healing heart, healing hands.
Well, as the lights dim down, it is now time for each of us to go to that place within. So as we settle into a comfortable position, releasing any items we might be holding with our hands, and yes, they are healing hands. So we might place these hands in a position which indicates the power that lies within each and every one of us. The power of God working through us. And maybe those hands are simply resting somewhere on our legs, perhaps in our lap. Perhaps we place our hands or one hand on our heart. And as we go within, we just allow a release of any concerns, any worries, any sense of anxiousness, any fears. And come to that place of trust, knowing that all is well. Because in spite of outward appearances, there is divine order. And as the song says, we do have healing hands, healing eyes, healing words, healing thoughts. Might we bring to mind someone in our life who could use the power that we possess as an instrument of God to bring greater health, prosperity, assurance, comfort. to anyone, anywhere, any place. As we give thought to our sending out this powerful energy, making a difference. And as you observe the smoothness of your breath, the flow of that divine energy available to all of us, each and every breath, life-giving, life-supporting. Might you call to mind a pleasant, heartfelt emotion, such as gratitude, kindness, or love, simply by thinking of a happy time, a time with children, your own or others. Perhaps a pet or any animal that brings to mind a feeling of wonder and love, appreciation for all the good times, for all the good things, for all the good that is in your life. Whenever we are experiencing sadness or madness, we have the power to turn it into gladness, to simply go within and give thought for all the good that we have experienced and the good that we will continue to experience as we share with those we love and with the world at large. May we make this month a month to remember. And so it is. Amen.
To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, time to love, a time to hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late.
Now it's time to turn this service over to Joe Kelly.
Good morning. And it's a real pleasure to be here. And interestingly enough, I don't know if it's possible to put that original slide that started the worship up on the screen, but I believe it said something about you are an instrument of my peace, something like that. There it is. No. Oh, in the stillness of the moment, I am peace. So isn't that interesting? Because all week long I've known that this morning I was going to talk about peace. But I didn't know it was going to be here. And they didn't know I was going to be here. Interesting things happen when we're open. You know, the concept of peace is one that everybody, virtually everybody in our culture says, oh yeah, I'm really into it. Yeah. Right up until we start to talk about how to make it happen. And the how to make it happen is often another story. No. Over this past week, we've had a number of experiences. Linda and I were in the car, driving someplace, doing errands, whatever. There was a wonderful musical thing going on in NPR that was a sort of collection of a medley of pieces that included some old hymns. And then one of them that broke through this beautiful piano medley was sections of Amazing Grace. And and it just really moved me. And it brought me back to a time many years ago in the mid-1980s when I had been involved in worshiping among the Society of Friends, also known as Quakers, for about 4 years. And I had been recommended for a process called recording. So historically, when the Quakers formed in the 1650s, they had no priesthood and no official ministry. That in the beginning, it was meant to be a tradition that went back to the period of time when, right after Christ's death, and that period of time between Christ's crucifixion and when the official church formed, between 200 years after Christ and 400 years after Christ. And during that time, there was no priesthood. There were no ministers as such. There were apostles who had walked with Christ, and they went in all different kinds of directions. And then there were others who felt free to share their experiences, their views, etc. And the early Quakers followed that tradition. Then after a number of years, then they started a process called recording, where certain individuals who seemed to have a gift were then recognized and somehow assigned as ministers of the gospel. And then after that, it changed to being much more like everybody else in the organized church. But when I was recommended for to be recorded, there was a process where you had to be interviewed by a number of groups of official people. And one of those times was in Indiana at a yearly gathering, a large yearly gathering. And there was a worship. And after the worship, I was then to be interviewed by this group of people. And about 6 months or so before that, we had been in a worship in Long Lake where there was an elderly lady, and she was in her 80s, and she was the widow of the pastor that had started the church at Long Lake in the mid-30s. Her name was Edna Mull. And Edna was a wonderful person. And she's one of these ancient people who just had a way about her. And she was the person who came to me one time after worship and asked me if I knew the story of Joshua. And I said, yes, I did. And she said, well, you remember when, you know, the Israelites were being led out of Egypt and into the promised land, and they reach the river, and Joshua goes and stands in the middle of the river, and the water stops. I said, I do remember that story. And she said, well, that's where you're at. You're to go into the river and stand and wait for the meeting to recommend you for recording. Okay, that's kind of weird, but me, I had a bit of a colorful past before starting on this journey. And so about 2 weeks later, she pulls me aside and she said to me, so what are you doing? I said, well, Edna, I'm standing in the middle of the river. She said, well, boy, you gotta step up and tell these people you're ready. You're gonna get all wrinkly in that river. Well, this woman, a few weeks after that, we heard sing. In a congregational sing, I mean, everybody was singing, and was singing Amazing Grace. And out over the congregation, I can't tell a story without tears, and I don't cry. Over the congregation came this voice, the most lovely soprano voice I have ever heard in my life, out over the whole congregation. And it was Edna. And afterwards, I said to her, I didn't know you could sing. She said, boy, there was a day when I had it. Only have it every once in a while now. Well, 6 months, a year later, I'm in Indiana yearly meeting, the big meeting in Indiana. I'm waiting to be interviewed by this committee about whether I'm worthy of being recorded. And this congregation starts to sing Amazing Grace. And it's 600 people. And it's very beautiful. And out over this 600 voices is this soprano voice that is, and it's her. The difficulty is that she's in Traverse City and we're in central Indiana or south Indiana. And so at the end of the hymn, I turn to the people next to me and I say, did you hear that soprano voice out over the top? No, what soprano voice? I'm the only one who heard it. And suddenly I knew that it really was, that whatever this committee did or said, I was okay. I was where I needed to be. We went into the meeting. The meeting was kind of tense. I wasn't quite the kind of person they normally thought of as recording, with a history such as mine. And at some point, a sort of arrogant, a sort of less than kind pastor said, "So, Joe, what makes you think you're worthy of being recorded?" And I didn't know what to say, in the sense of this wasn't something I had asked for. This was something that seemed to be being pushed to me. And suddenly, Linda spoke up. Now, Linda never speaks in front of a group, ever hasn't spoken at our church in 40 years. You know, but spoke to the group and said, and is almost quoting Edna, saying, "My husband is a serious believer and does everything he can to help people, and he's a good man." And they close the committee and they record me all those years ago. And in all of this, again and again, there are these times when, in the stillness of the moment, these awarenesses seem to come. And in that same way, over the past week, particularly, I've had this need to talk about peace. Because I think that as a world, we are in serious trouble. And I think we've been heading in this direction for many, many years. There's a lot of talk in a lot of places about God. But one of the things that seems to get left out a lot is when we ask, what would this entity we call God, what does it really want of us? What is God's will for us? And, you know, we can quote the Bible and we can do all of those things. Love, faith, peace. Jesus' message, and not only Jesus' message. Spiritual leaders throughout history and around the world talk about peace. Yes, they talk about inner peace, but they also talk about and mean peace among people. We are really intended, and of course I'm sharing an opinion, and it is my opinion. You know, but the truth is that anything we share is our opinions or our interpretation of our opinion of what such and such means. Various scriptures, readings, sayings of all time. in my opinion, everything that Jesus taught was around peace. Inner peace and peace among the family, neighbors, enemies, the world in general. Peace. Think about that. Think about how far we are from it. But think about if there was peace in the world, throughout the world, could we feed everybody in the world? Could we heal the sick and the suffering? What keeps us from being able to do that? You know, I think it's fear and human desire for power and to be special. You know, what is it that causes us to forget that being right is not necessarily being close to God? You know, peace, there will never be a time when everybody in the room agrees exactly on every interpretation of anything. There'll never be. There doesn't have to be. If we have an intention, a desire. There are many things like love. You know, one of Jesus' greatest messages are around the issue of love. Well, we have a tendency in our culture to think of love as a feeling, as a feeling. And I think in reality that love is a behavior, an intention, a decision. Love begins with a decision. Faith begins with a decision. Peace begins not as a feeling, but as a decision to behave towards each other in a way that works diligently to solve problems without going to war. There is no problem that war ever really solved. And there has never been a war that solved a problem. And where does peace start? And that's the problem. You know, so the temptation is to say it really starts with you guys all getting your act together, and you guys being everybody else but me. You know, and you know, but the truth is, and again, my opinion, peace starts with a decision inside one human heart. And that did occur. Probably other times also, but it occurred with Jesus. You know, 2023 years ago. That human heart stood for peace and died. Other human hearts, individual hearts, each has to look at the issue. We're probably as close today to going to war over a righteous issue, one more righteous issue, as we've ever been. And what will it solve, regardless of who wins? I don't think a thing. And if individuals don't begin to make the decision, but to make the decision, I have to practice being a person of peace. And that does not come naturally to me. It comes natural to some people, but it does not come natural to me. And so I'd like to not talk about it. You know, I'd like to wait, somebody else solve it. We can vote for whoever and they'll solve it. Other than in our culture, it has become extremely popular for, regardless of who's running for office, to use the willingness to go to war to prove their patriotism, their toughness, their courage, their etc. The only way to have peace is for individuals to make the decision to begin to live the behavior. And there's people like me, whom it doesn't come natural. That, I'm one of those individuals that can always argue with whatever position anybody holds. It's time for me to stop doing that. It's time for me to start looking for how can we find common ground? How can we see things differently and come away with this with a positive solution, regardless of what the issue is? How can I act towards people I don't agree with loving grace and acceptance and a desire to be together and work together? I can guarantee you in the California. In the California mountains, which just had the biggest snowstorm in living history, that there are all kinds of people who have different opinions about virtually everything, other than maybe growing marijuana, who are today working together to survive and to help each other. That's the position the world is in. And I need to become a person willing to work together with all those myriads of people I disagree with. And that's what Jesus asked 2023 years ago. And that's what the spiritual giants of all of the various world religions have been asking us to do. And the time for me is now. And I have to do the behavior. And I'm scared. that I can't. That I only know how to be me. And that's not true. That isn't true. It's just easier being me. I can change. I have changed a fair amount already. Not enough, my wife says. She said that yesterday. But today is the day. Because today is the day to love. Today is the day to be kind to people that I don't know. Today is the day to know that we either begin to work together or we will destroy all of the known world. And the working together is where the love is. It's not in just saying the words. It's working together. Thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you so much, Joe. We'll all meet this afternoon at Horizon Books to purchase. I never thought of it that way. This is our time of sharing our prosperity on behalf of Unity of Traverse City and the work that's been done and continues to be done. And it's each and every one of us working together. And I think that's really at the heart of Unity. It's putting ideas into action. So as you hold the items that you plan to give to this church today, whatever that might be, it may be in the form of you're going to volunteer. You're going to help in some way. Financially, it may not be a check. It may not be a cash or a credit card, but it's you participating in some way. So on the screen, let's affirm our prosperity blessing. Together, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive. Thank you, Mother, Father, God. Thanks. And so it is.
In the web of a spider, in the spout of a whale, in the stripe of a tiger, in the curve of a snail, there in each creation, in each grain of sand, there is an order, there is a master plan. The light of God surrounds us, the power of God protects, the presence of God watches over us, and all children in the cold. Would the great Creator not value every soul? We all have a place here. In God we have a home. Each one touching others. We are not alone. The light of God surrounds us. The power of God protects. The presence of God watches over us, and all is well. The love of God enfolds us. Wherever we are, God is. We are safe, we are cherished, and all is well. All is well. God hears the whispers. God hears the cries. Infinite wisdom, all-seeing eyes. The light of God surrounds us. The power of God protects. The presence of God watches over us, and all is well. The love of God enfolds us. Wherever we are, God is. We are safe, we are cherished, and all is well. All is well. All is well.
Well, that pretty much concludes our service, and thank you for attending. If you are new here, if you've never been to Unity of Traverse City before, our ushers do have information that you could receive, gives more details about the work of Unity. And we'd like to have you all stand and gather in a circle. So for those of you who are not new, of course, we have fellowship, refreshments at the other end of the church, an opportunity to mingle, and want to give thanks today for the music team, especially the beautiful voice of McRae. AJ in the booth. We have a wonderful prayer chaplain team, and each Sunday after the service, two of those people are available, one up in front and one out in the hall, for anyone who has a need to speak privately about an issue that you're dealing with. These people have healing ears, healing energy. And don't forget, if you're interested in the script cards, also the book, you can talk to Yvette personally about the program. And let's just give some thought right now to the situation in the world, the situation in our own country. And as Joe has said, it all begins with the letting go of a rigid agenda of believing that we are right or our opinions are what counts. So we might give thought to the people in Ukraine, but also the people in Russia who are not happy about the situation. And there are people in China and North Korea and elsewhere in the world where they're under the rule of dictators, not by their choice. And locally, of course, right within our congregation, we have people with needs. And last week, for those of you who are here, we welcomed the presence of Steve Orr, who still has a ways to go. So if you want to add anybody into the circle of prayers and send our healing energy out to the world and affirm God is at work in all situations, as we affirm that with our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us